3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Forest podcast, a podcast from 3 Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is our Bad Batch Monday, and today we're going to talk about Season 1 finale, Kamino Lost. But before we get into the episode, want you guys to know that we recorded live today with at Richport. Is that the correct link to them?
Richport at 10:5 or
it's gonna be linked down.
It'll be in the link below, but we were with them. Well, if you're listening to this now, it's probably we did that yesterday. But we'll leave a link down in the description where we discussed Bad Batch along with other cool Star Wars things and actually a bunch of other nerd related media. So make sure to check that one out. It was a fun time with our fellow Puerto Rican colleagues there in the podcast social media community. So it was fun. So yeah, check it out. We'll leave a description below here on YouTube and on Twitter.
But anyway, Bad Batch Season 1 finale. I am very happy we're getting a second season because that episode was depressing.
I mean,
it was good though.
You said, I was almost about to say the final Bad Batch Monday, but thankfully it won't be because we do have season 2 next year. And like you said, Nani, it was a nice little cliffhanger. Almost literally, right? Because we ended the episode right kind of, it was a mountain, but sure, whatever. It's a mountain.
So we had Return to Kamino, which is kind of like an optimistic title, and then now we have Kamino Lost, so it is official. Kamino is gone. So what did you guys think of the episode in general?
It was, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it had been released as part, like a 2-part episode with the Return to Kamino. I think those 2 episodes really work well together. So I would have liked that seen that in one sitting, because especially with how bombastic, right, previous episode was and how quiet, even though this episode wasn't quiet, but it was a little more internal and personal. I felt that it was a nice coda to the last episode, and both together I think worked better than apart. But I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really strong ending, especially with keeping everyone safe and protected, but also setting up the dangers ahead for both the Bad Batch and our potential connections to other Star Wars shows and movies.
What about you, Mo?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great season finale. I'm glad, like you said, Nani, that there's going to be another Bad Batch season, because if not, then I mean, it could be a good finale, but I feel that they've laid out so many like thread lines that at least as a fan I want to like follow and see where they lead to. That I'm glad we're gonna have that second season. As for the episode, it's just beautiful. It's just that it's almost like a farewell to an era. To be honest.
Absolutely,
definitely.
It felt very nostalgic, very respectful in a sense. So I'm glad we had this. It gives like a semblance of, this is the Clone Wars ended. This the Empire is now the Empire. We have to leave behind any attachments to the Republic, and this is what the new future lies ahead. So how do we deal with it? And you have characters that choose not to follow the empires, and you have characters who by their own volition, say like, hey, I want to join the empire, and the fallout and the actual unfolding of events that leads to. And if in that case, there's still the sense of family, like we can differ, we can have different opinions, but at the end we're all family. So I think it was just beautiful, to be honest. Like, good.
I'm gonna disagree with Goose and agree with something that Mo said on our last episode, that I kind of appreciated that they separated both episodes, because it was a lot to take in, that, you know, this is like the end of Kamino. And I think if we would have watched it back to back, it would have taken something away from it. I think it made a more of an impact that we had to wait a week and see how the culmination of this, like, you know, final arc was going to be. So I found it even more evocative that they separated them. And then you get this completely different, because it starts right where the last episode ended with, you know, the fireworks destruction of Kamino. And then it goes into like the episode never stops. Like the characters are always threatened in this episode. And then you see, you know, from like the aerial attack to how everything goes underwater, and it, like the silence and the score, which has always been fantastic. There was something incredibly mournful about the score this time. Like you feel sad just, you know, listening and watching the images, and it hurt. I mean, it was so well done. You really care about these characters. And then like Goose said, it's also very internal, all these conversations with Crosshair, that before he was like just fully defensive, but in this episode you can start to tell that, you know, the words of the batch are starting to get to him. Like he's starting to, you know, he's doubled down on, I've made my decision, but at the same time he's starting to feel doubts about it as well, which I'm really glad that we're getting a season 2, and I hope that they explore that inner conflict with Crosshair a lot more. And I think if it would have been incomplete, I think, if this is all that we were going to get from the Bad Batch.
Right.
So I'm really glad that we're getting more. I'm very hopeful about how they treat it going forward. So that was my take in general. I really, really enjoyed it. It felt like a complete season, but it's not the end of the story.
And I liked how you were phrasing what happened with Kamino and how it was being framed, because, you know, it was a burial at sea, right? Quite literally. So we were like putting the facility to rest, but that facility means a lot to a lot of people, and like obviously it means a lot to the characters in the show too. So the fact that it was going underwater, it felt, you know, very like I said, like it's like a burial. So it was visually that much more, and the fact that then the episode was taking place underwater, so you have to deal with the consequences of when you lose something, right? So like having all those characters do that while visually being in that circumstance was very very well visually and thematically done, I feel. And I feel that the show was also kind of meta in a way this week, especially with the discussion between the Batch and Crosshair, and like their difference of ideologies and how they not come together, because obviously they leave, like, and they go their separate ways. But those discussions that they have, especially with the very charged climate that we're having nowadays with the current political discourse, I felt that the show, probably intentional, but we won't know, right? Because we asked one of the writers, felt very poignant in like how I made that comparison between like how family members differ and how do you deal with it. Especially for me, the best scene that kind of showed that was when Tech was explaining to Wrecker why Crosshair was doing the things that he was doing, but then Crosshair's like, "Oh, I didn't think you would come out and be on my side,
defend me."
And Tech's like, "No, just because I can understand you and can know why you're doing what you're doing doesn't mean I agree with you." And I was like, "Oh shit, there you go, Disney, Lucasfilm throwing some little truth bombs there so that we can internalize how we also deal with our interactions, right, with family members or friends that might be like different spectrums of a conversation." So I thought that was great. And not to keep rambling, but the fact that Crosshair left at the end of the episode, I think was really smart move, because if he had, at least to me, if he had changed allegiance and just left with the Batch, it would have felt unearned, especially after his conversation with them, that they didn't go look for him and want to get him. I feel that's what season 2 needs to do, is like them trying to get him back, and then have that dynamic for him to switch sides, if at all. But I think it'll be more earned if the Batch goes out of their way to get him to change his mind.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. I think it would have been way too abrupt if they made him switch sides right now, which you didn't call, Goose. You thought he was going to rejoin the Batch, but I think it's
glad I'm wrong.
I think it's actually it is way better the way that they did it. And now that the badge has taken the first step, especially when Hunter says, like, you said that you gave us a chance, now we're giving you a chance. He didn't take it now, but I think they're taking the first steps into like mending that relationship, which is also why I loved when Omega says that they're still your brothers and you're still my brother, which kind of definitely brought a tear to my eye. It was really good. Go Omega for the win, really.
Yes, she's the best.
It's dramatic. Just I'm leaving. I'm gonna like wait halfway through the pad just to say this, deliver this amazing line.
Yeah, it's like, go Omega.
and then Crosshair is like, oh, we're considered us even. Like,
yeah. Of course he has to be snarky about it. Yeah.
But this episode was a tearjerker. Like when they started setting up their escape with that AC1 was gonna be the one that could push them. I was like, no, it's gonna happen.
It's like, don't you Jack Dawson him. This is not Titanic. He will not float away and freeze to death.
Osvaldo said the same exact thing. He was like, this is a Titanic moment. This cannot happen. And I was really pissed because I was really excited that we got AC, because you always need a droid in the family. And I was just like, they're going to kill off the droid? How can you? So, and it also shows signs that, Crosshair isn't a bad guy. He ended up saving them. And then
I mean, I disagree on that one. Like, come on. Saving a child is the least you can do. That doesn't make you a good person. That just gives you bare minimum of humanity. Because I'm sure even imperial people, they care about their kids too. So like,
Anakin does not care about the kids.
He had a bad day. He had a really bad day that day.
Wow.
But anyway, I thought they go back and forth so much here with the droid issue. Like, they humanize them sometimes, characters like R2D2 and C3PO and now with AC, like, Omega was willing to die to save AC. And then other times, like at the end of Mandalorian, it's cool for Luke to go on a rampage because they're just droids. So I feel like they don't get it right completely. It's like they almost do, but
I mean, I think that's a good point, and I agree with it. But I don't think the argument against it. I don't think the Mandalorian example is a great one with the Dark Troopers, because the Dark Troopers are droids created by the Empire to not have free will and to like impose a negative agenda, right? So like, it's not like AC or C3PO or R2D2 that like have their free will and are like good guy droids. So I think like Solo did what you're saying of like fucking up droid autonomy by killing L3, and then she's like all about droid liberation and free will for droids, and all of a sudden, nope, but we're gonna imprison your mind forever in the hyperdrive of the Millennium Falcon. And it's like, that I think in that sense, it's like, Star Wars, you thought you were doing the thing, but then you ruined the thing.
Okay, I will concede the point.
I mean, it's still your point. I'm just saying that Solo is a better example.
I think it's a valid point, Nani.
Anyway, did you guys also notice that there's obviously the episode is very dark because we're underwater and it's like, this gloom and depression, and then at the end we're in sunlight. I think it's the only time we've seen sunrise in Kamino, because Kamino is always raining and everything, so it ended with this like beautiful hopeful note. Even though you leave Crosshair behind, you have this idea that at least they acknowledge that they're still family. They don't have to agree, they don't have to be enemies. And so it was beautifully framed also, like with the continuity of it throughout. So I thought it was really fantastic, and there were some really cool moments in there too visually as well, because I can't get over how good the animation has gotten. Really, it's something else.
It's so good, especially like again, like the wet hair still gets to me. It's just like, oh man, I don't know.
It's amazing. And this time like fantastic. The underwater hair,
kind of like Super Saiyan.
Yeah,
it was great.
So it's so too good. I mean, it's kudos to them, man. They deserve like an Emmy for outstanding animation. I don't even know if that's a thing, but if it's not, it should be, because the show looks really good. Especially like if you look at it in comparison with the first episodes of the Clone Wars. It's right. It's the same
Yeah.
animation style that started
Yeah.
with the Clone Wars, but you can see how far it came from
Mhm.
like the plasticky, crappy backgrounds and not good lighting to like this, which is kind of a every frame is basically a painting.
It's a work of
so
art.
good.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Just everything's just mesmerizing.
It's
Mhm.
amazing. So now we have to talk about a Crosshair situation. So how do you think that
Mhm.
was handled in general?
In terms of the episode itself,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think the last two episodes did with Crosshair and his dynamic with, I mean, the problem is that he didn't have a dynamic, right, with the batch. He
Mhm.
just had like that exchange with Hunter in Return to Kamino, and then like his interaction with Wrecker and
Mhm.
Tech in this episode. And I think we needed more of that. I think Crosshair needed to have like those moments with the batch where they're kind of like ignoring him out because he's lost, and him we seeing that
Mhm.
he has like some sort of emotion about it, even though we're not sure what it is until that reveal, right? In the end. But
Mhm.
the end, I mean, yeah. So these last two episodes did what the rest of the season should have been doing in a more active way. I don't think they needed to, beat us over the head with that thing, with that dynamic. But I think it needed to happen more so that when we see it now, it feels, like I said before, it feels earned. Because right now it's just like, oh well,
Mhm.
this thing at the end. So hopefully we see that in season 2 a bit more, and I think we will based on how
Mhm.
how the season ended. So
Yeah.
I really like the dynamic between these two episodes on
mhm.
like Crosshair's interaction with their respective batch members.
Mhm.
Like the first one, and obviously it's Hunter. It's like the big brother, the
Mhm.
Mhm.
kind of leader, and like that.
Mhm.
You kind of failed me, and Hunter still kind of like feeling ashamed as well. So
Mhm.
like it's that I know I'm in the right, but I'm feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you have the interaction with Wrecker,
Mhm.
and then that's where it's interesting because Wrecker presents the same argument against Crosshair. Argument was like, well, why didn't you look for me?
Mhm.
And then Wrecker's argument was like, well, why didn't you look for us? We would have taken
Mhm.
you in.
Yeah,
Right.
and he looks so sad about it too. Oh, Wrecker.
Yeah.
He's so pure.
Well, and the fact that before Wrecker made that statement that Crosshair was like, oh, what's in your tiny head? And
Yeah.
it's the same argument. So it's kind of like in your face kind of thing, like, oh wait, I also have that tiny head but
Mind.
it's not.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
It's everybody takes it from their own perspective.
Mhm.
And then you have, Tech being all Tech and being like, hey, I'm objective. But that doesn't mean I'm with you. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't condone it. I just understand your situation.
Mhm.
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 But then it's Omega that's the relationship that Crosshair still can't get over.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
he's stuck there. It's like there's like jealousy. There's like, oh, you're
Mhm.
following orders from you getting from the child,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden the child is older than us, and like,
Yeah.
was there when
Which is the fact that I
Right.
really like that Tech acknowledged it. It's like
Yeah.
she's actually older than us. So
Mhm.
why do you keep calling her a kid? Like,
Yeah.
stop that. And I do love that the batch like completely backed her up when Crosshair's being like, really, you're following orders from the kid? And it's like, do you have any other ideas? And they fully trust her to
Yeah.
be able
Right.
to do this.
Finally.
You know? Yes. But I mean, they had to get there too. They're trained to be soldiers, and
Mhm.
they still, it's going to take them a while to understand the fact that she is older, just because of, visually you see her as a child, and then they're overprotective of her, but at least
Mhm.
they have come to fully respect her. And Crosshair doesn't really understand it, obviously, because he hasn't been around the team this whole time.
Mhm.
And I don't think he understands the relationship that has developed between her and the rest of the batch. But I think at the end of the day that she is probably going to be the bridge that brings them back together.
Mhm.
You saw a lot of interactions between the both of them too, and Omega herself trying to understand him. because she admits herself that she thought it was all about the chip, but it wasn't.
Right.
And that's something else that I really enjoyed when Tech is, defending Crosshair, that he says that it's just in his nature, that he was always unyielding and severe, and he can't change his own nature. So, but I think you can, it's a choice that you have to make. So I think that this is now what's going to happen with Crosshair. Hopefully we actually get more from his perspective in next season, so we actually know what he's thinking.
Yeah, and I think that whole interaction with Omega and him kind of, and not to like diverge the conversation right from this internal emotions, right, that all these characters having, and going to like the theory realm. But I think in a way, this whole interaction that Omega and Crosshair had in this episode might subdue or just like cancel the Omega's Force sensitive conversation, just because like now that we know that she was there before, I mean that she was there before them, and she might have actually helped, now let's say in their creation. She wasn't being Force sensitive in those first episodes when she was saying like, oh, it's, I know what you're going through, because
she actually understood them because she was there.
She's like, well, I know what's going on scientifically.
Yeah.
So maybe she's just enhanced in different ways.
It's a normal clone.
But there has to be something like different to her. Like, why does she have blonde hair all of a sudden? It's like there's still maybe that's just a red herring that we're still focusing.
I mean, what makes Boba Fett different than just a normal person? No, like, they're still a badass. So,
which is something to look forward to. I really hope that Boba Fett shows up in season 2. I would love to see Alpha and Omega interacting. I think that would be fantastic. And
I wonder if Omega will actually get a name. Like,
I don't know. Omega's pretty badass name, if you ask me. Yeah.
It is a pretty badass name, but
Well, I see what you're saying.
But it's still a number, or like a system. Wasn't like.
Yeah, it's a title, not a name.
Yeah. Right. But I think it would be cool to see Boba and Omega interact as young adults, right? Now in Bad Batch, to then open the possibility of then maybe seeing how that, if we see a relationship between them in animation as young people, how it maybe in Book of Boba Fett, we see like old Boba and old Omega. I mean, I don't think we'll get Omega in Book of Boba Fett.
Are we gonna do like a Loki thing? With their variants, so they're gonna get chipped.
No, they're not variants though. I think that's getting into weird discussion, because they are genetically, that's completely different, I think, from the Loki thing. Now my brain's going haywire. Because in, and if you want more of this discussion, you can check out our last episode with Ty Black on Loki. What for all time always. But because Loki and Sylvie aren't genetically the same person. Yeah. They just fulfill the same role in their timelines. Yeah. So they're not the same. They're not the same person, as opposed to like Boba and Omega. They are genetically the same, and they're as close to siblings as you can get. So they would be twins.
Yeah.
So now that would get into like the moral dilemma of if is consensual incest wrong or right.
Oh,
but I don't think that's what this episode is about.
No, thank you. No. Anyway, but going back to the Omega, because we were talking that the name is technically a title, which is one of the things that Hunter points out to Crosshair, that it doesn't matter what you do to the Empire, you will always only be a number. And I think Crosshair has convinced himself that if somehow he attaches himself to whatever is more powerful, he will be powerful too, and he will matter because of that, instead of finding meaning in being a family, which is what the Batch chose to do. So I love like both sides of that.
It's like, it just reminded me of Saruman in Fellowship of the Ring, where he's like, oh, I'm going to rule with Sauron, and then Gandalf is just like, there is only one Lord of the Ring, and he does not share power. It's the same thing, Crosshair. Just because you think you're gonna share power, nope, power is for Palpy, and you are disposable.
Yep,
Palpy and
completely
Palpy only.
disposable. So I don't know. So I think Crosshair's starting to internalize some of that, hopefully, because he didn't look completely, sure of himself there towards the end. I thought it was a beautiful ending, because not only do you get like, that burial at sea, but then you see Omega looking out into the distance and you see all the smoke coming out. So you get like the burial, the cremation, like this is just the end of an era, basically. Because it's not just the end of Kamino, but it's the end of that era of Star Wars.
Yes, the Clone Wars are officially over. Just like Yoda said, begun the Clone War has, ended the Clone Wars were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the Empire.
And even the name of the episode, it's like, Kamino, it's the way. It's like they don't have a way. They don't have their what is going to be their path. Crosshair has a path. So follow the Empire. But what's the
But it's
path?
not his path that he's setting for himself. It's a path that someone else is giving him now. And
True. But
Batch has to find right?
So the Batch has to find a path. The Batch path.
Oh shit. We're getting into tongue twisters here.
So anyway, I think we've talked about most of the episode so far. Do you guys have any last thoughts or anything about the episode or the season in general?
No, I think we should do maybe like a rewatch of the whole season, and then maybe do
an
an
episode about the whole thing.
The whole thing and see like how it ages right now with the hindsight of knowing how the whole thing happened. But in terms of like this episode, I think we went deeper, especially with that whole Loki comparison there, deeper than I expected to go.
Yeah. So it was good. It was a good finale, really. I got the serious feels from it, and obviously the score is something else.
Fantastic as always.
I guess there's the last scene where Nala Se is being taken to by the Empire.
How did we forget that? Yeah.
Good question. Was that Kashyyyk by any chance, or?
We don't know. The planet wasn't named, so it's still speculation.
Looked awesome,
I think it would be interesting if it was Kashyyyk. I think it could be the same planet where they rescued Gregor from a couple episodes ago, which I don't remember the name of that planet either. But it was a great visual, right? Like
it was amazing looking. Yep.
Beautiful.
And obviously with the Imperial worker with the same cloning outfit as Dr. Pershing from the Mandalorian. So obviously the implication is that Nala Se is working on
Let the Palpy clone begin.
Exactly. The Clone Wars are over, but the Palpy clones have begun.
Palpy clones have begun.
Yeah, so I think we are going to have a lot to look forward to for season 2. So I think we're done for today, right?
I hope it doesn't happen like the Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah. I hope they continue to do what makes it good and they don't kind of backtrack. So and I hope season 3 of Mandalorian does what makes it good again. So here's hoping.
Goes back a little bit to the roots of season 1, and it's fine to expand the universe, but just don't make it feel ham-fisted. I feel
do it with purpose, because I do think that one of the good things about the Bad Batch is they had cameos too, but their cameo characters had a purpose. They didn't feel forced on you. So
exactly.
So hopefully they will continue the trend, and maybe Mandalorian will be inspired by it as well.
Absolutely.
So I think with that, we are done. This is the end of the Bad Batch season 1.
For now.
We're getting season 2. Yes. We are Triad of the Force. Thank you for joining us. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere that podcast can be found. YouTube. We have some shirts and stuff. So just like, subscribe, leave a comment. And until next time, may the Force be with you.